Hi, I'm Sherry Stump. Thank you for joining me today. I'm reading from the devotional book, God's Amazing Grace by Ellen White. Today's reading is May 16, found on page 144. The title of today's devotion is Not a Substitute for the Law. In Romans chapter 6 and verse 15, we read, "What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law but under grace? God forbid." It is the sophistry of Satan that the death of Christ brought in grace to take the place of the law. The death of Jesus did not change or annul or lessen in the slightest degree the law of 10 commandments. That precious grace offered to men through a Savior's blood establishes the law of God. Since the fall of man, God's moral government and His grace are inseparable. They go hand in hand through all dispensations. The gospel of the New Testament is not the Old Testament standard lowered to meet the sinner and save him in his sins. God requires of all His subjects obedience, entire obedience to all His commandments. Jesus was tempted in all points like as we are, that He might know how to succor those who should be tempted. His life is our example. He shows by His willing obedience that man may keep the law of God, and that transgression of the law, not obedience to it, brings him into bondage. Man, who has defaced the image of God in his soul by a corrupt life, cannot, by mere human effort, effect a radical change in himself. He must accept the provisions of the gospel. He must be reconciled to God through obedience to His law and faith in Jesus Christ. His life from henceforth must be governed by a new principle. He must face the mirror, God's law, discern the defects in his moral character, and put away his sins, washing his robe of character in the blood of the Lamb. The influence of a gospel hope will not lead the sinner to look upon the salvation of Christ as a matter of free grace while he continues to live in transgression of the law of God. When the light of truth dawns upon his mind and he fully understands the requirements of God and realizes the extent of his transgressions, he will reform his ways, become loyal to God through the strength obtained from his Savior, and lead a new and pure life. It is not the work of the gospel to weaken the claims of God's holy law, but to bring men up where they can keep its precepts. Thank you for being with me today. Please join me tomorrow when we'll read about what is love to God and man. And may God bless you abundantly above all you can ask or think.